Hello, and welcome to FODES, the Future of Design and Engineering Software podcast. My name is Rupinder Tara. On this show, we will have guests that will discuss tools and technology that engineers will find interesting and useful.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you as well. Thank you
How
for
how
joining.
how do we actually pronounce your name? Rupinder?
Rupinder, that's great.
Where is it
Yeah,
from, actually?
originally from India.
Nice.
You're originally from France?
Yeah, did you guess with the accent maybe? Like, yeah, from France. All the team is actually from France.
The accent gives you away for sure. But you are living in San Francisco now, right?
We are like partly in France and partly in San Francisco. MecAgent is actually an American company, but we also have like a subsidiary in France, and we are using both worlds, I would say, Europe and the US. But yeah, I'm the one in the US.
Okay. And your offices are I want to say Fort Mason. Is that correct?
Exactly. Like we are
Yeah.
currently in Fundraising. I don't know if you heard about it, but very cool place. A lot of very cool people there, and so
Yeah, I've been there a few times. I'm just north of you. I'm up in Marin County. Have you had
nice.
a chance to visit yet? Marin
No,
County?
I've never been there, but I would love actually. I would love to visit more about like, the coast and around San Francisco and all of that. So
When we first moved to the Bay Area, when I showed my wife Marin County, she finally overcame her reluctance to move here and said, "Well, this is nice. It's not what she had thought of the Bay Area, but Marin County, I think, is the Jewel, I probably shouldn't be telling you this because Marin County doesn't want anyone else to move there. They've like closed the door behind them, it seems, right? But yeah, you just cross the Golden Gate Bridge and it's like a whole new world.
I've kept myself from that to not be too distracted for now, but like I will
Uh,
definitely check it out.
I'm sure you're too busy working. I want to say your name correctly. How would you say it?
It's just Owen, like the I is just there to mix up with
Owen,
English.
just
Yeah,
like Americans would say it.
exactly.
Okay. Okay, that makes it easier. Very good.
It's a this way of writing is actually from Welsh. It's like a Welsh way of like writing it, but yeah, it's just like pronounced normal. I mean, you could say Owein, but like no one calls me like that. Like it's just like Owein, Owen,
What does your mother say?
Owen.
Okay, all right, good. All right, now you've started this company with with some co-founders, right? So,
Yes.
okay, tell me about
So
them.
so yeah, I started a company with Alexandre and Guillaume. I've met them during the story is interesting actually. We met during studies in France, but I actually met Guillaume during an exchange in Sweden,
Mhm.
and we instantly connected. And so they are both actually like mechanical engineers, and I'm the software learning mechanical engineering on the go as well. Like I actually
Oh,
did,
mechanical engineers. All right,
yeah.
we have to do our secret handshake.
Yeah. The thing is like I actually did some mechanical engineering during like high school and afterwards, but I promised myself that I would never touch again like SolidWorks. And turns out it didn't really work. So I actually doing more SolidWorks than I would have ever thought. But it's
So,
actually so
so
that's
wait a minute. We hold on. Most mechanical engineers use SolidWorks, but tell me what happened to you. You experienced SolidWorks and you were, how should I say, disenchanted with it?
I was more interested at that time in software than like mechanical engineering, and so I was like already knowing that what I wanted to do was more around like AI at the time. So that was already like kind of long time ago when nothing about like Gen AI was out there. But I
Mhm.
was already knowing that, so I was like, yeah, this is very cool. But like every time I hear this very the noise of like the E or like the error in your feature tree or whatever, I was like, I don't want to hear that every day, right? And also, SolidWorks is a great software. Like the math behind, like the whole kernel behind, is like not even like from SolidWorks actually, but the whole CAD is great. But I have to admit that it's also like a lot of the time it's like very painful to work with those tools. Not only SolidWorks, but generally CAD. I would say I've never met so many people complaining about the tool they use every day.
Oh, and I think we're going to be friends. I am totally in agreement with you. I think I've used a lot of CAD packages, maybe a dozen. I've mastered a few, but I'm of the firm opinion that CAD is very difficult to use unless you're a user, then it's very easy to use, right? But for everybody else, people that are trying to learn it, people that are using it infrequently, it's extremely difficult. It's actually a barrier to design. It's
Yeah.
not computer-aided design at all. So what I'm hoping for, people like you, right, to change all that, to make computers finally helping us with design.
That's the initial view of what AI should actually do for mechanical engineers. Like the first thing is, of course, like help the already experienced mechanical engineers, and there are things to do. But then it's also like make everyone able to be a mechanical engineer. Like the idea is that like the CAD software is a tool, right? But at the end of the day, the mechanical engineers has to think about like the engineering part, like the design part is a thing, but the engineering part is also like, more than just doing the design. And so to me, it's a tool that should be like easy to use, which is not the case today, right? Yeah, the learning curve is like very steep, but AI is definitely something that can get you there, like that can like help you if you are able to ask any question and then get an instant feedback on like, yeah, you should do like this, you could also do like this. And I think that's kind of the same, like the playbook is similar to what is happening to software development right now, right? And that's the initial thought of like why MecAgent is like we've seen how AI revolutionate the way we actually do software today, right? What would have taken like month would take like few weeks now or even hours, just because it is now way easier. Like there's a bunch of problematics coming with it, and I would be happy to talk about it because it's like will for sure transpose to like mechanical engineering, which is a lot of code is bad, a lot of code is like over, like some people like sometimes it's like overused, so you kind of like have this like technological depth that you're building up. But at the end of the day, I would have never be as confident as today to say that my grandma could actually do a B2B app, and ship it like very fast because of like all the AI tool out there.
Most people know AI, let's just say civilians know AI for because of ChatGPT and others like it now that have used LLMs. But you found a way to use LLMs to control SolidWorks in this case, right? So would I be able to use a natural language interface, like type out a command, and MecAgent then can actually turn that command into SolidWorks commands?
You could do that. We have like what we call the cat copilot in the software, where it's like the agent is directly taking actions in the software. It works well when you want it to be like reflective about, oh, let's say I want to change all the name of my parts into like another language, like all the names, or name them correctly.
Mhm.
Then you have to have like this LLM reflecting on like, okay, what's the part look like, and okay, what language is it right now? What language I need to add it? So that's one part which is very experimental, not definitely not the most useful for now. The other part that we like very very pushing today is like creating automation. And so yeah, this is exactly, when you were talking about the steep learning curve earlier, there is something that like even the most experienced mechanical engineers are not using in their CAD software today, and it's like the scripting language. But when you think about it, it's the most powerful tool because it's like, let's take the example of SolidWorks. You can do everything that you can do in the UI, you can also script it. And so today, the goal of like this feature for us is to actually make everyone able to do like automation in their CAD software. So you would go, hey, I want to export all those sheet metal part of my assembly to the XF, but they need to be unfolded and all of that, right? And so you will go step by step, typing out. Maybe the automation is not working first time, then you refine it, and that's we were talking about making it easier. We definitely empower every mechanical engineer now to be able to create automation in their CAD software.
Let me get an idea of your general philosophy here. So you came into engineering, you discovered that CAD is not really helping me. It's very difficult to learn. There should be a better way. But you chose to, instead of making a whole new CAD program, you chose to work with the leading CAD program, right? So tell me your thinking behind that. Why wouldn't you just say, okay, I don't like the way SolidWorks works. I'm going to make a new SolidWorks.
The first thing I thought was, let's make a new SolidWorks. I talked to Alexandre and Guillaume, and they were like, that would be very, very fun as an experience, but it's actually not realistic. The real problem is like, how do you get AI to the mechanical engineer? There are those people that call like Onshape, right? 12 years ago, or they came out with this idea of, oh, actually file versioning is very bad in the CAD world. We're going to create a full new CAD software in the cloud that can like help you do file versioning, which is a very good, like this is a huge problem. They were solving a real huge problem, right? Still, like 12 years after, they're getting bigger and bigger, and like this is going in the right direction, right? But um, they're still like maybe owning a few percent of the whole market, not even. And so for us, it was kind of the same idea of how do we be how are we the fastest to be associated to AI for mechanical engineer. The answer to that for us was we have to be the one that are actually integrated into their workflow. The biggest problem right now is that if you're using SolidWorks, you can't go to Fusion 360. You can't go to like you can't move from one software to another, right? We understood that, and we're like, okay, let's just be like on top of all those softwares to learn from the mechanical engineers use, because Alexandre and Guillaume are mechanical engineers, but you can't assume that you understand like all the needs, and you can't assume that people will tell you what they need actually. So we were like, okay, let's create a copilot. Doing that, we solve already existing problems such as like creating automation for tedious tasks, but also part finding, also like answering engineering question and all of that, which is already an added value. But like and for the most important part, learn about like, okay, how do they use it? Oh, interesting. And then maybe that will be one day. And I think AI could be the thing, the biggest leverage of like, oh, how do we change the CAD world right now, right? How do we actually change this whole for oligopoly, right? For company oligopoly. And I think AI is the leverage, but for us, the strategy was like gather the data in terms of like use cases. How do people actually, what do the people actually need? And maybe one day we'll end up being doing a new CAD software, but it's definitely not on the roadmap. And to me,
Right.
it's like there are some people like when you think about it, like Zoo.dev, they're here for like quite a time now. They're like creating a new CAD software based on their own kernel, which is very cool. But realistically, if you want to move like the fastest and go in the direction of like being used by the people, for us it was a no-brainer of like, okay, let's integrate into their existing workflow. Otherwise, they won't probably move. Because even if the willingness to move was there, making like an entire company move from a CAD software to another is like a very, very, very hard task. So
Right. Well, it was a smart move when you look at it in the respect of use the most popular CAD program and just make it work better rather than convince people that your software is the greatest and latest. You mentioned Onshape. Onshape had a very similar problem, right? That they said, "Oh, we're a better CAD program," and even though they were created by the founders of SolidWorks, they did not overtake and upset SolidWorks. They had a problem in uh, being accepted. So you've overcome that barrier using the most popular mechanical CAD software.
the on-chip move is also good for the market as well, like to have like like different programs out there. But yeah, that's definitely the problem of it. And maybe in like, I don't know, 10 years, there will be like a majority of people using Onshape, maybe because like schools are using it, people like learn it because it's free and they have a good strategy on that. But right
Mm,
now, and AI is not waiting 10 years, right? So
yeah.
um, but also, I feel like the biggest problem right now is translating the file. Like if tomorrow a company was coming with like a new way of being like, hey, you can go from an SLD PRT to whatever the CAD software you want, and it's like reconstructing the entire feature tree without any loss, then the whole CAD market changed, like the whole dynamic changed. But it's not yet there, and I don't know if it will
Yeah.
ever be there.
Yeah, a common format that preserves all the history and the parameters and all the design intent. That's just not there. You work with a industry standard files, and then you lose all that. You lose all that information. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's not a common format. That's true. That's a very big problem. Okay, so but your problem takes care of the beginning part at least. You can make a command compiler really for not just SolidWorks. Maybe it could work for any CAD program. So any CAD program could have this a natural language interface like you're talking about.
Yeah, so we starting by SolidWorks because it's the most advanced in terms of API, but ultimately the idea is to actually scale that on every CAD software. Every time we're going to introduce a new CAD software, there will be some differences for sure, because if the API is not necessarily as advanced, or the use cases of like the automation are probably different, then there will be some differences. But yeah, ultimately the goal is to be able to automate any CAD software. We're working like so far we're working with the API, but we're also working on other um, way of doing it to be in like to be able to scale it to any CAD software.
Are you as you're doing this, are you sort of looking over your shoulder to see, hey, is SolidWorks understood that this is their software is hard to use and they're going to do what you're doing and they have a lot of people they could bring to the table to work on this, right? So is that a thought?
Of course, I mean, it's like I think it's a thought for every startup founder. The big actors in the space could always overtake you,
Yeah.
um, and especially even more for us because we're working like we're integrating with those CAD software. So ultimately, since we sitting on top of them, they kind of have the control of like it's at the end of the day it's their software. So and but what I think is we have a very good like our best like point is like we're a startup, so we can move fast. Like and that's the that's why startup actually exists, right? It's because like those big company, and when you think about SolidWorks, you think about Dassault behind it, right? Um, they're very slow, and they don't have the same constraints as us, right? They could be like, hey, this automation thing is actually very powerful, but they can't really try it because it implies so many things, right? And so I am not that scared about like, and even if I was scared, someone has to try it, right? So
Yeah.
creating like, to my opinion, like creating a startup in the end of the day is like gambling on the fact that you will be faster than the other doing it and better at it. And I think we're going in the right direction because like automation have been out there for like scripting in SolidWorks has been out there for like 20 years, right? And that applies to also like all the other things like drawings, for instance. There's a lot of like AI around like generating drawings, right? Um, SolidWorks and all the CAD software have been working on it for sure for years. Still, that there is no clear features or no killer features on those software, and there are like plenty of startup that can leave with that. So I think it's a risk we all like. That's the first thing we thought. We were like, okay, and that also drives the direction we take. Like things that are very obvious that like those CAD software will have it, then we probably won't work on it because that's they will probably have it. But for the things that are like kind of vertical, as such as like the automation creation and all of that, I think we are like trying to be the best at it. So worst case scenario, it makes no sense for them to actually start working on it since we are, and so they try to integrate us to their software, right? We are actually like in current discussion with the CAD provider, like all the CAD provider in the space. Everyone is kind of interested to see what we're doing. So
Yeah.
it's like a thought for sure, but it's the purpose of a startup, right? Doing something that like the big company can't because they're like too big to actually they have too much inertia to try it.
Definitely, definitely. I like the way you're heading. Another thing you might watch out for, though, is that these sleeping giants may just wake up and realize, hey, that they are not as fast moving as a startup. And then they start acquiring startups because their own developers are not, I don't want to say not capable, but not in that mindset. They're not that fast. They're not working on the right things. They might be using existing code too much. Uh, but they would actually start buying startups for that purpose to give themselves a leg up, or worst case, to just buy it to remove them from the market. That has happened. This just today I heard about. Cadence, they're not in our industry. They're not in mechanical. They're in electrical design automation, EDA, but they just bought up AI startup. Uh, I think probably for exactly what I'm talking about, that, to give themselves a quick boost in AI that maybe their own people can't handle. How committed are you to staying the course and not being bought out, or is that an option?
To be honest, like I never thought about like creating like a company to actually get bought by anyone.
Uh-huh.
Of course, like you can't like I would never say never. But the goal for me, I feel like cat industry has been there like forever and has been like handled by like four big companies, five big companies that are no longer really pushing and no longer have like incentive to actually make their workflow, like the CAD itself better, right?
Right.
Because they don't need to, like they are like making so much money out of just being existing and like supporting their CAD software. And my point of view on it is like there is a huge leverage to actually shake that tree, right? Make like I make the things differently. Maybe not being a threat because that would be them to be a threat to like that's so today. It makes no sense. And at the end of the day, we want to make the mechanical engineer, the end user, going faster. So my goal is just to make SolidWorks easier, SolidWorks faster, for instance. But
Mhm.
if you look at the long-term vision, yeah, AI. I know that like AI is in the mouth of everyone, but like I truly think that the way, not necessarily like maybe LLMs, right? But like LLMs gave me the ability to be an expert, not an expert, but like knowing a lot of things on a lot of different topics very fast. So I think even if the end technology is not like necessarily like an LLM doing action in your CAD software, but
Mhm.
maybe like it will allow like that researcher at MIT to actually be faster developing the next generation of models that will overcome the way we do CAD. Maybe, and I hope like in few years we'll be doing CAD differently, or it's not necessarily text because trying to describe the very complex shape of a car by text is definitely not the way. But I can see like CAD software evolving or new CAD software coming up or a new way of doing CAD, like the instructions. Like we are so settled up on like that feature tree because it was the way we were doing before, right? It has been the way we were doing it like for years. But I believe that you could like rephrase those instructions. It's no longer necessary to probably have like a sketch and then an extrude on that sketch. It can be like I don't have like in mind, but like it could be like a cube directly. And then if you redo that like set of instructions, then it opens a new way of doing CAD. And I think AI can be the things. Um, but to answer the initial question, I'm not initially creating a startup to be bought by any companies, but I do create a startup to actually try to shake the tree of the CAD world because he has to be shaped like for the sake of the mechanical engineer of the day. I'm not trying to replace mechanical engineers, right? But when you're evolving in those CAD software that has probably no incentive to make your experience better, um,
Right.
because they are like owning the whole market, then there must be some startup shaking the tree.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I'll come back to that at the end, but I'm dying to see how your software works. Show us?
I
Yeah.
will just be
Okay.
sure. So it's like I'm developing on a MacBook, so it's obviously
Okay.
on a virtual machine, virtual computer. I don't have like a mouse, so I won't be able to move too much around the part. But like um, here, you recognize that it was SolidWorks, right? Um,
Right.
on the left, and on the right is MecAgent. Today, MecAgent is like a fully fledged software, so it's not like a plugin or whatever. It's like a software you download from our website and you can install.
So you're outside of the SolidWorks interface. You're just a window next to it,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah. I'm just like a window next to it. Like
Okay.
I'm putting it like this, so like because this is how like the people using MecAgent today are using it. They put it like on the side, and then
Mhm.
and then there are like also another view when you create a bunch of automation. I will show you. Um, but yeah, so the idea is our main feature today is creating automation. So I have a bunch of example here that I'm doing for the demos. Um, the use cases of those, like the direct use cases of those is like what we've seen so far. I would say two things. It's because it's important. Like we're talking to like the people that were already doing some like macros, in SolidWorks. There are like people that were like in companies that are already doing it, paying other companies to do it. And those are the direct like users, the early adopter of this because they can see the the direct like use case, right? They know because they already created automation before. But there is like 95% of the rest of the mechanical engineers. And for instance, Alexandre was like he never used any automation because he didn't even know that it was existing. Those people we have to educate a bit on like, okay, what will be those use cases and all of that.
I've heard figures as high as 95% don't use the macro features because let's face it, they don't want to they don't want to be programmers.
Yeah, like that's fair. Like you don't want like make it like it's exactly the choice I did didn't do actually. I was like, I want to be like someone doing like code, but like I could have been the other way around back in high school, being like, I don't want to code, I don't want to see code at all in my life. And so that's the assumption we do. And so for instance, here there is a good one. It's like so you have this barbecue, which is like like a sheet metal assembly. And I could go for this one, which is a good example. Is like, okay, exportation is like bulk export is a problem a lot of people are facing, for instance. And so like I could go like create an automation that bulk export all the part in the current assembly to DXF, unfold all sheet metal parts before exporting and create a dialogue. And this is also very important is that we also give the ability to actually create interface on top of like SolidWorks. So the idea is that you augment kind of the software. I'm just gonna run it, but you can create a full new UI. And I've posted like on the LinkedIn recently, like a new, like a dashboard we created to actually monitor certain things in your assembly. So that's the thing you can do that would have taken a long time also before. Like you would have never like actually take the time to do it because if you don't want to learn the code, you don't want to learn the code to actually make UI on top of it. But like, so I'm gonna execute. So so I just chat and then it creates the automation. And then I can just like here, I'm just gonna go for this folder. And this UI was generated by the AI, and then it's just gonna run the automation. And it's gonna go through like all the part and take the one that are like metal sheet, and for the one that are like metal sheets, then unfold them and export them to the folder I actually picked. I could go to the folder to show you. Wait, I can't see my.
So your macro was created outside of SolidWorks. Now, how does it know when you read it into SolidWorks? How does it know to which parts to interact with? Does it have like placeholders that it uses where it doesn't know uh, part names, for example?
Um, as you can see, SolidWorks just crashed, and that's like for sure for the sake of the demo, he had to crash.
Okay.
So the question is, how does it know, like what? How does it get like the context, right? How does it
Yeah.
know what part, or how does it execute the automation, and how is it
Mhm.
like smart in a way of like executing the automation? Is that the question, or?
Yes, that's a question.
So two answers to that. The first one is right now, the tool itself, when you create the automation, the thinking part is when you create the automation. Um, the thing is, as soon as the automation is created, then there's no like context, or there's no like thinking part anymore. There's no like LLM that will say like, oh, the result of the automation was that, so I have to adapt it. But that's something we're working on. It's another feature that is in behind like the.
Let me try to be a little more specific. Maybe this will help. You said export all my parts to DXF, right?
Yeah.
Now, how is SolidWorks going to know what this is? This has to be a certain thing in its assembly, right? Which
Yeah.
you would point to it if you're in the program, but when you're making a macro, you can't do that. You can't point to it or give a name. So how do you overcome that?
The first thing first,
Okay.
it's we have like MecAgent is fully connected to SolidWorks, right? You can see here that I have the name of the assembly, and then
Okay, so you're accessing the file. You're accessing the model.
so we actually do not retrieve any information on the model, like
Okay.
for IP reason. But when you think about that problem, we have all the tools to actually deduce what you're talking about. Like all the tools that we gave to the agent will be like help him to actually deduce like, okay, if he's talking about this assembly, I know because I'm connected to the assembly. And then if when I say like all the part in the current assembly, I can have like a tool that will list all the part in the assembly and then like execute whatever I ask for all the part in this assembly. It's like important for me to emphasize on the fact that we're not like retrieving any CAD data, and the only thing that is saved is actually like the chat and the automation that is generated. And so the whole deducing logic is implied by like the tools that we are actually using to give the context to the agent. I don't know if
I
that's
see.
clear.
Yeah, it makes sense. Am I at any point able to, are you able to put in the macro to a user interaction where it can say what it can, the program could actually say, the macro could actually say something like which part, and then the user could point?
I actually could go through like, okay, the way I would do it is probably like generate an automation that let me select the part and then apply something on that.
Okay. Okay, got it. Understood. Thank you for tolerating my interruptions.
No problem. But I would go like, hey, generate an automation that would like find all the, let's say I want to apply something on holes. I need an automation that like actually find all the part which has a hole in it, or that let me select all the part that has a hole in it. And then,
Mhm.
but you could see like the problem two ways. You want to be able to select, but you can also ask the AI to actually do it for you. So how do
Mhm.
you deduce that there are hole in a part? Then it's a whole logic that like that is code at the end, right?
I
Um,
see.
and so, but the next step of that is so that this is the first thing, right? Like creating the automation. But the direct next step for us is then having an agent, being able to generate those automation, execute them, retrieve whatever the output of the automation was, and then modify probably the automation itself and go more on an autonomous behavior. And that's kind of what we like going through with like the experimental features, which we call like the cat copilot. It's like a more autonomous way of like giving an instruction and then it will be able to like do multiple things. But what we observed was already being able to generate those automation for every mechanical engineers, and being the best at doing that is already something that we have to work a lot on. And that would be already very useful for a lot of companies. So the focus is like on it, and that's the reason that like that this fear seems to be the one that resonates the most. A lot of people were also like, okay, so let's say like so before it was a good example because like the automation actually crashed because of SolidWorks. Sometimes happens. But let's say I was like, okay, this automation is exporting DXF, but I would like the top view of the part exported in PDF or PNG or whatever, or do anything else. I could go like actually create an UI so that I export top views as well. And then you will go to like iterate with the agent on the automation. Uh,
I see. I see.
and as soon as the automation that he created is good enough or fitting one of your need, or that you want to be able to reuse it, so you will see that it is going through like a whole to-do list of things, which is quite similar of like how Cursor or whatever the copilot for software engineer works. As soon as it's like good enough, so most of the time it takes a bit of like time. It will take probably like 1 to 3 minutes to generate the automation. You could add it to your favorites. I will just wait for it to finish and then I will show you. But the idea is that you add it to your favorites and then you have like all your automation. And our view on that is that like everything that could take 2 clicks, or something that you do like every time that takes you like 2 clicks, it's not a lot, right? It's not taking a lot of time, and you would probably before MecAgent never create an automation for that because creating the automation seems to take a long time. But at the end of the day, if you were able to create any buttons, any new button in SolidWorks to do something that you are doing repeating like a lot of time during your CAD journey, then it will be worth it, right? And that's also a bit of the philosophy we have. It's more of like automation. You can do like very complex automation script, but it can also be like very simple ones and thought as just like creating new buttons in your UI or new interface, new dashboards or whatever you could use to actually go faster. And that's something you would have never done before because you don't want to learn VBA, you don't want to learn C sharp, you know. So
Absolutely. I think my programming skills stopped at Fortran. That was like 30 some years ago. So yeah, I don't want to pick up those code again, uh, but or any code. But here's what I'm thinking about. And one of the things that's very, how should I say, distasteful to engineers, or things that one of the things they don't want to do is make drawings. Are you able to automate any of that process? Like,
So the drawings is very interesting because I would say it's a huge market as itself, right? Automating drawings is probably like the most obvious use case for AI right now. We have like basic automation around drawings, which are not like as deep as what like a draft aid AI could do, for instance. And that's not necessarily like our focus right now because it has to be your like main focus.
it's a whole specialty. I mean, it's a whole thing
It's a
unto
whole
itself that
specialty. And
people.
also my point of view is that CAD softwares, and if you look at SolidWorks, there are new features around drawings, and it's getting more and more around like the drawings generation part. It's getting more and more like advanced what you can actually do. And most of the time, some people doesn't even know that there are like some new features in their CAD software that can automate the drawings. But for us, it's more of like we have use cases of like automation around drawings. Like you can export multiple views automatically and be, but it won't be like as advanced as if we were like doing it like full all in it. You
Mhm.
can automate things around drawings, but it would probably not solve all your problems.
I see you're making a grill, which by the way is very American. So a barbecue grill. With drawings, you're actually chasing something that's dying off. What's a better way to barbecue dinosaur burgers when you know that there's no more? You're more chasing the beginning part of the design, not the dying end part of the design, which are drawings, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's funny because when you think about it, drawings should be gone already, right? But
Yeah,
still, that is like there, and it might be there for like the next 20 years, right?
right,
Just
right.
because of legacy. Because when you look at it, it's most of the problem in CAD today are because of legacy. Um,
Yeah,
and that's the same for the CAD software themselves. Like they are there and still existing because of legacy.
right.
The assembly that is 20 years old won't be able to be moved from any CAD software.
Tell me this about the automation now. Can I see the automation? What does it look like? Is it lines of program of code?
So right now,
Yeah.
our approach is abstract as much as possible the way the automation works behind, to
Okay.
be like as simple as possible, more as like a lovable, if we
Hmm.
have to compare, right? It's still like in discussion of like what the direction towards like should we be more of like a code editor for macros. Right now, we're not taking this approach because again, the idea is to be like as simple as possible and to like go for the bigger crowd. But we definitely not excluding to be like also providing options to actually get access to the code of the automation. But the thing is also it's going to change the way like today it's like only about like scripting and some other secret sauce, but for other software, it will work differently. So we're thinking the MecAgent is thought to be like cross CAD, at least for us right now. And so we're trying to be as agnostic of the software as we can.
I understand. It
So
reminds me of a quote that's attributed to Einstein. Make it as simple as possible, but no simpler.
yeah,
Right?
that's good.
So,
For us,
so
like, yeah, trying not to optimize for this very small crowd of like, okay, macro creator people.
mhm.
At least for now. Never say never. Maybe in 3 weeks, everything will change, right? That's also the game of the startup, but yeah.
All right. So what is the end product if once I create the automation, which is essentially a SolidWorks macro, where is it? Is it a file? Is it something that's just read into SolidWorks, or how does it exist outside of SolidWorks?
So just showing you that like the modification I asked was like
Okay.
successfully done. And I will cancel the thing. So the idea is that as soon as you created your automation, you can save it. Um, and then you will be able to like find it back into your like own saved automation.
Okay.
And so that was the thing I was talking earlier. If you go like, we have this like compact view mode. You can see my desk is a mess, but you have this compact view mode we like to present where it's like all the automation you created as if they were
I see. So it's saved inside MecAgent. I like it.
exactly.
It's just exactly the way ChatGPT works. It saves all my conversations, so I can go back to them. I don't have to redo them.
Yeah, exactly. So I will show you. So you have all the automation, but you can also go back to like all the chat basically.
Oh, and can I search in there too? Once it gets to be like days and months of this, can I search inside there for let's say, search for the last command that the DXF exports? I could search all of them?
It's actually a good suggestion. For now, you can't,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I will add it in the pipeline, and next week you can.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So, right now, what we actually implemented, I don't know if it's on this version, but like you would have like for the that's a
Filters.
we would
Okay.
add
Got it.
filters. Here's
Okay.
like the topic automations.
Mhm.
We also added like a bunch of automation that were the good starting points. Also
Good.
because
So good. You get them started with a little library of
yeah, we have a
automations.
little
Perfect.
library of like the one that were the most asked by people basically.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then you can like filter it by like let's say I want drawings, then it's gonna be like just the drawings. And you have like a bunch of one. And what is very powerful with that is that most of the time the problem was also with automation was that you had one that was nearly fitting what you needed like online, but you would not be able to modify it to make it fit like to your need. And so here it's also like the same, we're solving the same problem here. It's just like you go add to my automation and then you see that I can like see this automation that I just like copied from like the public automation part and then I could go
You
to
could, and then you can remix it. I
yeah,
see.
change it.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole workflow. But it's also, let's say I have like my automation here. I want to share it to the one member of my team. I can just share it and he will be able to import it and remix it the same way. Automation for me is like the first step, right? When we created MecAgent, we had like a bunch of ideas of like, okay, mechanical engineers, they have a lot of problems. Um, let's solve all of them. We decided to narrow down a bit more on like automation creation right now because it was the one that was like the most used from all the
Mhm.
features. But
I think it has the greatest potential to be used because now it can, the whole barrier to automation is now just, it could just be removed. I don't have to learn how to make macros. You can just ask it for automation. Yeah.
and to me, it's also like another barrier that is going to be removed is like how do you get an AI to talk to a CAD software? And I think automation today is just a way to automate tasks. But when you look what is behind it, it's like a way to use a CAD software. Uh,
Precisely.
Precisely. So
Yeah.
now we're thinking of, oh wow, it's like actually opening for the mechanical engineers themselves, but for the entire like AI perspective as well. Like, and then it's a way deeper topic of, we started like MecAgent started on back in March. We were like having prototypes of like part generation, and it's a very hot topic in the space, right? Like everyone is talking about like 3D parametrical part generation. We are working on that as well. Like it's a very like deep tech research subject, but I think it's also like a step forward, like in terms of like, okay, as soon as, we were mentioning earlier this like universal file format, and I wish so maybe we'll be the one creating it.
Hmm.
But as soon as we have this file format, how do we actually get this file format into the already existing CAD software? And it has to be in a certain way. And I think like automation and the things behind it can be the way. But I was mentioning that because that's the first feature of MecAgent. That's the one we are focusing on right now, but there are like other more cool feature to have. And we are working on like being a copilot, not necessarily like being only like just an automation creator. But like today, if you were like a new if you were a SolidWorks user and being like, okay, what can MecAgent, what should I know of MecAgent? I would go for like it's an automation creation
Yeah.
AI. But there are like some other features, such as like if you have questions about like certain deep topic, you can go like, hey, how do I compute pressure loss into a pipe or all of that, and then you will get all those like the answer, but then all the PDF quoted as well to actually verify that the LLM is not getting crazy. And then we're also working on like different features such as like part finder. We're working close by with like like catalog providers, and the idea is to be able to, hey, I select this axle in my assembly. I want a bearing that fit the constraint. Boom, you have like a bunch of bearings. I won't say that it will find the exact one because we're not there yet, but you have like a
Mm.
bunch to look through, and it's like already making you win sometimes. And this is like the whole philosophy of MecAgent is like, okay, what are all the features that can make a mechanical engineer spend more time of like engineering more than just like looking through PDF of like constraint or whatever.
Oh, it have you become a SolidWorks partner, or they have a third party program? Do they allow would they allow you to become a partner, or have you already done that?
It's an ongoing process. We're discussing close with Dassault, like this whole like they have as you mentioned like the partnership program,
Mhm.
and we actually like talking with them right now.
Good luck with that.
It's always cool to talk to people that like actually have the right questions.
I'm a frustrated CAD user, as I said. This is music to my ears, honestly. I really appreciate the conversation. I'm so glad to hear you say that you have a lot of the same gripes against CAD as I do, and but better than me. You're actually doing something about it. I'm just complaining.
Always cool to connect with, as I said, people that understand. It's a pleasure to talk, and
Thank you. I hope to get you back on as a guest.
thank you very much.
Uh, okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to FODES, the Future of Design and Engineering Software Show, brought to you by Eng Technica. I hope you have learned of a new application or technology that will help you with your job. If you have an application you think would be of interest to other engineers, please let me know by emailing me at rupinder@engtechnica.com or message me on LinkedIn.